Hi everyone, today we are going to be talking about the seriously hyped Easy Blur Foundation and Easy Blur Primer from Huda Beauty. Every single review that I've seen so far, right from the get-go, before this was launched and also after it was launched, very shortly after it was launched, was by somebody with either perfect skin or, you know, in their 20s. So I wanted to give my take on it. If you had seen lots of reviews with loads of people raving about it and you have a skin that is more like mine, then hopefully this will help you make your mind up whether you actually want to pick these up or not. So there is a bit of a change to the background that you will have noticed immediately if you are a regular viewer. We're just switching things up to give a bit more of an autumnal vibe for this time of year. The green is still underneath there. It is only a backdrop. It can be removed at any time, but do give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think. If you're new here, hi, my name's Gemma. I upload lots of beauty content on this channel and I'd love it if you come and join the family by clicking the like button, the subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. So this is the long-awaited Huda Beauty Easy Blur Foundation. It's going to set you back £32 in the UK and you get the standard 30ml or 1 fluid ounce. It comes in a squeezy tube, which is incredibly easy to work with and also very beginner friendly. It's not one of those squeezy tubes where loads of the product is going to come out at once and then you're going to waste loads on the back of your hand. It's very easy to dispense. This comes in 29 different shades. I've gone for the shade Shortbread 200B, which is absolute perfection on my skin tone, so if you are my shade twin, that is the shade that I would recommend for you. It does say on the website that this is going to give medium buildable coverage with a natural airbrush finish. Medium buildable coverage, I would definitely agree with. Natural airbrush finish we're gonna get into in just a second. It also says on the website that this is a serum-like consistency, and in all honesty, I could not disagree more. This is definitely thinner than the Luminous Matte Foundation from Huda Beauty. However, although it does have a little bit of give in it, so it will run down the back of my hand, it is far too thick to be classed as a serum-like consistency, in my opinion. This foundation has been marketed as a 3-step system. Very clever, more sales. Step 1 would be the Easy Blur Primer. Step 2, Easy Blur Foundation. Step 3, Easy Bake Setting Powder. So although I do think these work beautifully together, I don't think it's necessary to have the primer and the powder if you want to try the foundation. And I wanted to get that out there straight away. I have used all three throughout this entire process while I've been testing this foundation out. This is most definitely not a first impressions review. I have really put this foundation through its paces. So on each day, I've only added primer to half of my face, so I've been able to compare and contrast the difference throughout the day and at the end of the day. The first thing I want to say about this foundation is that on the website, it says that it is foolproof, easy application. And quite frankly, I haven't found that. That has not been my experience. I'm not quite sure if you've used it already, whether that is your experience as well, but I haven't found this easy at all. There is definitely a knack to applying this foundation, so there are ways that you can make it really easy, but unless you know those ways, it is difficult at first to apply. So I must say I'm wearing this today and it is the nicest that it has ever looked on my skin, but I took my time. So let's get into it. Okay, so primers are up first. If you are going to buy the primer, I do recommend that you use the recommended amount, which is 2 finger lengths for the entire face. This is 5 times more primer than I have ever applied to my skin before, but if you're not going to apply that much, on day 1, I didn't apply that much. I applied my regular amount. It didn't make the blindest bit of difference to how the foundation looked or wore throughout the day. You do have to sort of over-apply this for it to make a difference, which means you're going to go through it a lot quicker if you're using this on a daily basis. It does spread on the skin really beautifully though. It melts in, it's got a bit of a cooling effect to it, and it doesn't feel heavy. So I did like the primer. and I was surprised that it didn't feel heavy on me considering the amount of product that I used. The foundation definitely feels a lot heavier than I was expecting, and it dries down so fast. It's really difficult to work with and difficult to get the right amount on the skin without over applying it. So I definitely would suggest that you don't do the foundation trick of putting it in the palm of your hand and then really working it into the bristles of the brush before you apply it to your skin. I did this on day one. It did not work for me because you have to get the tiniest amount of foundation on the skin for this to actually look natural. Over apply this even in the slightest amount, and I think this looks heavy and like foundation on the skin, which is not my preference. So yeah, I didn't like it on those days where I applied a little bit too much. Because this foundation dries down so quickly, I like to split my face into sections, add the tiniest amount of foundation to my brush, work that into the skin on one of the sections, and when that section is complete, move on to the next section. This isn't one of those temperamental foundations that isn't buildable, that when you try and build over the top of foundation that's already laid down, it lifts the foundation that you've already got on the skin. So it's very easy to build, but if you apply in very light layers, you will get a better finish. I personally have never felt the need to build this up in any areas because it is enough coverage for me, and the more you build this up, the heavier and more unnatural it looks. This leaves no tacky residue on the skin whatsoever. It dries down, it's very smooth, it's quite silky soft on the skin, but there is definitely no tackiness. So in my opinion, if you are one of those people that does not like to use powder, this is one of those foundations where I don't think powder is necessary. It is definitely one of those foundations where powder is more of a choice. If you choose to go down that route, it will increase the longevity of the foundation, but if you don't, you are still going to get good wear out of it. One of the bonuses of having a foundation that's very quick to dry down is it doesn't have time to creep into any fine lines. My smile lines remained looking the same after first application. It doesn't sink into my pores and create those polka dot effects. So that was a bonus. Having said that, I can feel this on my face, like I said earlier, and if you're into a really natural looking foundation and you don't feel like you can have a very light hand with this, if you are overly heavy-handed with a lot of your foundations, I don't think you're going to like this. I also don't think you're going to like this if you've got really dry skin, because on day 1 and 2, I did have really dry skin. That skin was quite textured. This looked absolutely horrendous on my dry skin. So if you do have really dry skin, this is another foundation that I would not recommend for you. As far as long wearing goes, let's have a look at the foundation on day 5. Day 5 is the day that I feel like I got to grips with how to apply the foundation after 10 hours worth of wear. So this is the foundation after 10 hours. I wasn't expecting any of the foundation to still be present around the perimeter of my forehead, because this is the day that I went to the hairdressers and had my hair colored. So I'd obviously had my hair washed while I was there. So I wasn't expecting that at all. However, something else that I wasn't expecting was the foundation to be non-existent on the end of my nose and also on the tip of my chin. Sometimes my chin is my problem area if I'm overly oily, but I didn't feel like I'd been overly oily that day, so it was a surprise to me that there was no foundation left there. I'd also not really been touching my face very much throughout the day. I'd not blown my nose throughout the day, not had a little bit of a sniffle, so I was surprised that there was no foundation on the tip of my nose after the 10-hour mark. That hasn't happened to me in a really long time. This foundation looks a little bit patchy. A lot of it is still there, but some of it looks heavy and some of it looks textured and really accentuating the texture. The heaviness in between my brows and around my brows accentuates the texture. Also around my nose area, I think accentuates my pores. But I can definitely see a difference between the primed side and the unprimed side. So the unprimed side looks a little bit more shiny. There's a lot less foundation on that side than there is on the primed side. Bear in mind, I had the recommended amount on my skin on day 5. So 1 finger length for half of my face. This foundation confuses me a little bit because it did improve throughout the week, but I got a different wear test result every single day that I wore it. Sometimes I had foundation on the tip of my chin and on the tip of my nose, sometimes I didn't. On the days that I did, I feel like it looked heavier on me on first application. So it had either clung to my dryness, clung to my texture. I just over applied it by mistake, which is very easy to do. And because of that over application, I still had foundation on my skin, but that didn't mean that it looked pleasant at the end of the day. As my natural oils came through on the days that I had really dry skin and it looked absolutely awful on first application, it actually looked better at the end of the day as those natural oils had softened any dryness that was on my skin at the beginning of the day. So it's really, really difficult to sum this foundation up after 6 days. So there is a definite knack to applying this foundation, like I said right at the very beginning. If you are a beginner to foundation application, this is definitely not one that I would recommend to you. I apply foundation all the time. I would consider myself quite good at applying foundations, and I found this one quite difficult. Again, we are on day 6. I am only just coming to terms with it, just getting to grips with it and learning how to apply it to get the best results. So day 6, it's a long time. If you were wondering whether this foundation was transfer resistant, I can definitely say it is not one of those foundations where everything lifts onto the tissue, but I'm not quite sure if you'll see that. There is definitely some transfer. So if you are one of those people that wants a completely transfer resistant foundation without the aid of a fixing spray or a setting spray over the top, I don't think you're going to get it from this, but that's just my experience. I personally haven't had any negative issues applying this over different SPFs. My usual SPF, which is the one that I've applied 5 days out of 6, is the hyaluronic acid watery sun gel from Isntree. That is a chemical sunscreen, but I did try it with a mineral sunscreen on one of the 6 days. This is the OneSkin OS1 Shield Broad Spectrum SPF 30+, and did not have an issue. It was still very smooth, didn't hinder any application that I did on that day. So no negative issues with different SPFs. I would love to hear from you though. If you have already bought this foundation, if you are having a completely different experience to me, or if you agree with everything that I've said in this video, please share your experiences with everybody else, because it's not just my opinion that matters. If we can get together as a collective and share our thoughts, then it just makes it easier for everybody else on whether they actually want to give this one a go or not. The more information everybody has, the better it is for everyone. So if you could do that, that would be absolutely fantastic. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. I'm not quite sure how helpful this is going to be, but I can only do what I can do. I can only say and share what has actually happened to me. And as far as I'm concerned, the one thing that I need to get across in this video is the easy blur. It's not so easy. I'm on day 6, only just getting to grips with it now. So please don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave, and hope to see you all in the next video. Bye everyone.